Imagine a place that symbolized the absolute power of a monarchy, a place that for many was the embodiment of fear, oppression, and injustice. Now imagine thousands of people, peasants, bourgeoisie, and even a few disgruntled nobles, marching together against this symbol. What began as an act of desperation became a historic landmark. Today, we explore the fall of the Bastille, the day France woke up to a new world. The Bastille was more than a medieval fortress. It was a symbol of the authoritarian power of the French monarchy. Originally built in the 14th century as a fortress to protect Paris, it became, over the centuries, a political prison, where those who defied the king were held without trial. By the end of the 18th century, the Bastille was nearly empty, but its meaning remained intact. To the French people, it represented everything that was wrong with society. The privileges of the nobles, the crushing taxes, and the royal disregard for the needs of the people. But why, on July 14, 1789, did an angry mob decide to attack this fortress? What led these ordinary people to face cannons and guns, risking their lives for something greater? Let's delve into this fascinating story and understand how the fall of the Bastille was not just an isolated event, but the beginning of a revolution that would change the course of world history. In addition, we will explore the political, economic and social context that led to the French Revolution, analyzing the deep roots of popular discontent. After all, the Bastille did not fall by chance. It was the culmination of decades of accumulated tensions. The historical context, a France on the brink of collapse. To understand the fall of the Bastille, we need to go back a few years earlier, to the end of the 18th century. France was experiencing an unprecedented crisis. The economy was in ruins, the royal coffers were empty, and the people suffered from hunger and poverty. Meanwhile, King Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette, lived in extravagant luxury at the Palace of Versailles, oblivious to the plight of the people. Problems began to mount. Costly wars, such as the American Revolutionary War, drained the country's resources. In addition, the rigidly stratified class system divided into three estates: clergy, nobility, and the third estate, made up of the bourgeoisie, peasants, and urban workers, created enormous inequalities. The third estate, which represented about 98% of the population, paid the bulk of the taxes, while the clergy and nobility enjoyed fiscal privileges. By 1789, the situation had reached its breaking point. Harvests failed, bread prices soared, and riots began to break out across the country. It was against this backdrop of growing tension that Louis XVI convened the Estates General, a rarely convened assembly representing the three estates. However, instead of resolving the issues, this meeting further exposed the divisions between the classes. The Third Estate, frustrated by its lack of representation, declared itself a national assembly and swore not to dissolve itself until a new constitution for France had been drawn up. This was the first step towards the French Revolution. But what happened next? How did this political revolt turn into a popular uprising? We will explore in detail the events that led to the convocation of the Estates General, the role of the Third Estate, and the tensions between the classes. We will also discuss the impact of Enlightenment ideas, which questioned the absolute power of the monarchy and defended the natural rights of man. Philosophers such as Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu profoundly influenced the political thought of the time, planting the seeds of revolution. The road to the Bastille, from despair to action. In the summer of 1789, the situation in Paris was on the verge of explosion. The city was buzzing with rumors. It was said that the king planned to send troops to suppress the National Assembly and restore his absolute authority. In response, Parisians began to arm themselves. Cannons, muskets, and ammunition were precious commodities, and the search for weapons drew the crowd's eyes to one place in particular, the Bastille. Although the Bastille was more of a symbol than a practical threat at the time, its strategic location and supply of gunpowder made it a valuable target. On July 14th, a crowd of about 800 people marched on the fortress, demanding the surrender of its defenders and access to weapons. Inside the Bastille, Governor Bernard-René de Launay attempted to resist, but he was outnumbered and without outside support. After hours of fighting, the crowd managed to storm the fortress. De Launay was captured and, in an act of symbolic violence, executed in the town square. But why was the storming of the Bastille so important? At the time, it represented much more than the capture of a fortress. It was the triumph of the people over the absolute power of the monarchy. It was proof that united, the French could face any obstacle. In this section, we will explore in detail the events that led to the storming of the Bastille. Who were the people who took part in the insurrection? How did they organize themselves? What were the challenges they faced during the storming? We will also discuss the role of popular leaders and the emotional impact of the victory over the Bastille. The legacy of the Bastille, from revolution to the modern world. The storming of the Bastille was only the beginning. In the months and years that followed, the French Revolution gained momentum, leading to the abolition of the monarchy, the proclamation of the Republic, and the implementation of ideas such as liberty, equality, and fraternity. These principles inspired revolutionary movements around the world, from the Americas to Europe. However, the revolution also had its dark sides. The period known as the Terror, led by figures such as Robespierre, saw thousands of people executed on vague charges of treason. The French Revolution showed that while the fight for freedom is noble, it can easily descend into chaos and violence. Today, the Bastille is remembered as a symbol of resistance and change. Its fall is celebrated annually in France as Bastille Day, an occasion of national pride. But what is the true legacy of this event? Did it simply represent the beginning of a new era? Or did it also teach us about the dangers of seeking radical change? In this section, we will explore the global impact of the French Revolution, looking at how it influenced other political and social movements. We will also discuss the lessons we can learn from this turbulent time, reflecting on the dangers of extremism and the importance of balancing idealism with pragmatism. Personal reflections: why does it matter? The story of the Bastille is not just a lesson in ancient history, it is still relevant today. In a world where social inequality, corruption, and abuse of power continue to exist, the fight for justice and equality remains as urgent as it was. In the 18th century, the storming of the Bastille reminds us that when people unite in search of change, they can achieve great things. But it also warns us of the risks of allowing revolt to turn into blind hatred. The French Revolution showed that without direction and moderation, even the noblest causes can get lost along the way. So what can we learn from the Bastille? Perhaps the most important lesson is that change begins with collective action, but it must be guided by clear values and respect for human rights. The storming of the Bastille was a defining moment in the history of France and the world. It marked the beginning of a revolution that brought profound changes, but also unexpected challenges. More than a historic event, it is a reminder of the power of the people and the consequences of our choices. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about historical events that shaped the world, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to watch the next video, where we'll explore another incredible milestone in world history. Until then, keep thinking, questioning, and learning. After all, history isn't just about the past, it's about the future we can build together. Until next time.